Welcome back for another live, people. It's Chelsea versus Arsenal tonight. I want to know how you're all feeling. It's a cup semi-final. It's not every day you're playing in cup semi-finals. Obviously, this is over 2 legs. This time, unlike last year, we're starting at the Bridge, where we started at the Emirates last year before going to St James's Park. So it feels like unless we absolutely have a disaster class, then things are recoverable at the Emirates, but that's not how we want tonight to go. We want to go to Chelsea, we want to go to Stamford Bridge, we want to make a mark, we want to redeem ourselves after a pretty average performance at the Bridge in November. I was more defensive of the performance than others, but it's fair to say we still left probably some goals on the pitch, not in terms of the chances we've created, but the fact that we were up against 10 men and we could have maybe flexed a little bit more and showed what we were about. Hopefully we can try and right those wrongs tonight, but Chelsea might have a manager bounce, new ideas with Liam Rosenior. They do have players missing too. So we're going to talk about Newcastle City, the fact that City won 2-0. We're going to talk about Chelsea, what they could look like 11-wise, what we could look like 11-wise, potential tactics, key battles, things like that, and get all your thoughts ahead of a huge game as well, while reacting to some of the injury news that's been coming in from Mikel Arteta. Thank you all for joining. If you are here during the live stream, the live broadcast of this, if you are tuning a little bit later, do let me know your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Kickoff is in 9 hours, so we've got a little bit of time before the game kicks off at the Bridge. Get your comments in, get your thoughts, and we'll talk all things Chelsea Arsenal. Now, the first thing I want to touch on, I see all your comments coming in, but I'm just going to make sure I get my notes in front of me too, is basically, I want to chat about the Carabao Cup, how we were feeling this morning. I want to chat about how important that City win was for them. Talk about that game in a bit more detail. And basically, essentially, if we do win, I think it's almost guaranteed that we're playing City in the next round. How are we feeling? I quite like asking this question first thing. How am I feeling? How are you all feeling? I'll tell you what I would say. The Carabao Cup is, I think it's days like today where you realise where it does rank in terms of its importance, not just because we know it quite consciously anyway, but I think subconsciously you start to realise, and I can only speak for myself, but you let me know in the comments if you feel differently, you start to realise that, yeah, okay, I didn't wake up nervous today, for example. I'm not sitting here super apprehensive like, big semi-final at the Bridge. I don't feel that way. I don't feel the way I did for Real Madrid that night of the quarterfinals, or PSG the night of the semi-finals, or like big games we've had at the Etihad and other times. And to be honest, even some Premier League games where, I woke up ahead of the Liverpool game on Thursday, really pumped. Same with Villa, really pumped. Big game at the Emirates. Let's try and make a point. And I don't quite have that feeling. Now, is that because of how I view the Carabao Cup, or because we've got a semi-final and a second leg at the Emirates to kind of right any wrongs that might come from tonight? That could all be a part of it. But that's not to say that I for 1 second play down the Carabao Cup or don't treat it as a competition that we should be looking to win, that I don't show disappointment when we go out of it, which we have done for every year since we won it in the 90s. My feeling on the Carabao Cup, and I've said this so many times, there's only 4 competitions you can win. That's if you're Arsenal. It's less for others. And more often than not, even when you're in some of those competitions, you're not expected to win them, depending on who you are and what your aspirations are as a club. With Arsenal, obviously, the aspirations are to be competitive in all of them. But even with that, even with the knowledge that we've got a team good enough to win, even with the knowledge that we are, expecting to, targeting to, to win more than one trophy this season, potentially, it still kind of gets looked at as kind of the least important. But I still look at it and go, that's only 4. In a long season in which you can play 50, 60 games, there's 4 competitions you can possibly win. I mean, it's such a unique, competition system, point scoring system, because in F1, in tennis, there's so many in golf, there's so many competitions you can win. They're just more clearly ranked as the bigger ones and the ones that are more or least important. I mean, even if in F1, every race has the same amount of points that you can win from each one, only there's just some that carry more prestige, that feel bigger to win. But with football, like I said, 4 opportunities to get your hand on silverware. That's it. And tonight is a big opportunity to make a statement and hopefully take one step, or put one step into the final where, Man City basically have a foot in the door already there. I would love it if we won this competition. I'd be over the moon if we, beat Chelsea and Man City, which, by the way, we've faced them in semis and finals, haven't we, before, en route to winning an FA Cup. But I think the last time we got to the final of the Carabao Cup, or was it called the Capital One Cup at the time? Maybe it was called the Carabao Cup. Last time we got to that final, Pep won his first trophy with Man City. And again, it was Chelsea in the semis, with City in the final. Let's try and right the wrongs of that bit of history there. Because I think we lost 3-0. Was that when Aguero nudged Mustafi out of the way and then, lobbied it over the keeper? But yeah, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. But all that to say that, I really want us to take this seriously. I really want us to go win. That doesn't mean you can't rotate a little bit. You've got to manage the many games we have in January. But it's a cup semi-final. I hope we take it really seriously, and I hope we go big in terms of performance, in terms of 11 and all that. City last night against Newcastle. Well, as you'd expect Newcastle to, they took it seriously, but City absolutely took it seriously. Semenyo, Haaland, and Doku all started that game. That's probably, actually, is it their best front three? I'm not sure. But Shirky comes on. Foden plays a part in that game. They go and win 2-0. And that is with a pretty depleted back four. To be fair, Newcastle did have chances. It wasn't all plain sailing for City. But they've come away with a 2-0 win. Should have been 3. We'll talk about that decision in a second. And like I said, they've got one foot in the final because I just don't see Newcastle having enough, respectfully. I don't think they're going to go to the Etihad and cause them enough problems. I appreciate they came to the Emirates and won 2-0 last year. I get that too. But I just don't think they're going to have enough answers for Man City. They might nick a goal back. They might go 1-0 up and make it a little bit of an awkward affair for City. But I just don't think they're going to overturn a 2-0 defeat there. So, it's Man City. If one of Arsenal or Chelsea get through, one of them will. That's who they're very, very likely to meet. On the offside goal, the disallowed goal for Semenyo, took it brilliantly, just sort of swung a knee at it, didn't it? Swung a knee at it, and it sort of went into the back of the net from a corner. I have to say, it's one of those where I don't think you could be too mad at the officials because they have the job to do. They've got to follow the letter of the law. The letter of the law says that Erling Haaland is in an offside position when he's directly impacting the play. He is, using his strength to stop, was it Malik Chow, I think it was, or the goalkeeper as well. He basically is in the way and stops them being able to get in the way of blocking Semenyo's effort towards goal. So from that perspective, I get it. You follow the letter of the law. I suppose they're right to disallow that goal. But I've got to be honest, I would hate it if that was against us. And I do think they need to, and I don't know how you do this, but I think there needs to be something that takes into account set pieces when it comes to the offside rule. That was a direct corner into the box. I just think that goal should stand. I think for the sake of what the offside rule is brought in for, and for the sake of not wasting fans' times in stadiums, getting cold, players getting cold, waiting for decisions to be made, things like that. I just think there should be a rule in which if it is directly, if you score directly from a corner, maybe the offside doesn't count. And I know that might feel crazy because, then I suppose maybe an attacking player could stand in front of the goalkeeper and be completely in their way. But, wasn't it Bernardo Silva in the way of a John Stones header at Wolves last year? And, they were wondering whether he was offside impeding the goalkeeper. But I don't know. All this to say that I just don't think goals like that should be disallowed. I think Semenyo has scored a goal that I want to see allowed in the game. And if it was us, I'd be really disappointed with that. Just looking at the comments, Ilmatic says Semenyo's on fire. He is. He's looking brilliant. What's that? It should be 3, but I think it's 2 goals and assists in his first 3 games for Man City. And he started really, really well, and he just scored for Bournemouth in his final game for them against Tottenham. So, I think he's got 3 goals and assists in about a week's worth of football. So, fair play to Antoine Semenyo. He's just enjoying his best football this season, isn't he? Great last season, great this season. £65 million signing for City. And they will be rightly over the moon with the fact that they've picked him up and did it with very little resistance. I thought he was destined for Liverpool, but City came in and got it done. How are you all in the chat? Joshua Fernandez, thank you so much. Says you love the content. Big thanks. I really appreciate it. Big thanks to all of you who are giving your thoughts. Max, good to see you, man. Hope you are well. Hope all is going good. Shall we talk? I mean, what was next to talk about? We've talked about the Carabao Cup. We've talked about City in general. Let's talk about some team news, and then that's a sort of nice segue into the starting 11 stuff. So, Arsenal are missing players. Calafiori and Nketiah are out for the game tonight. Apparently, the Nketiah timeline is unclear, according to Arteta, and Calafiori still has a few weeks to go. What has happened to Calafiori? Like, I thought I read it was illness. So he comes off in the warm-up against Brighton and is essentially, if he's a couple of weeks away, missing a month out. And I had this big rant about the lack of transparency when it comes to injuries at Arsenal. And this is a little bit where it comes from. Why were we not just told earlier that Calafiori is out for a month? Now, I suppose because why do we need to know? Why can't the opposition be in the dark about that too and try prepare for a Calafiori, a Calafiori inclusion in the 11? That makes it harder for them in their team prep. I get all that. But I just think if he's out for a month, just let us know. I don't... It feels like we're going week to week with just more little jabs, more little bad news. Still out. Could be a few more weeks, still out. And this is why I've called for us to bring in another defender, because Nketiah is on his third injury, I think, of the season. Saliba's on his fourth, because apparently he's a doubt along with Trossard. Calafiori's now got an injury. He was very injury prone last season. Dalman and Mosquera are evolving well, according to Arteta, but they haven't trained. They're still a few weeks away. So yeah, I am fully in favour of us bringing in another defender, because we're depleted at the back. We've got a lot of injury-prone players who've had a lot of issues in the last year or two, and I think we should be prepared for that. That's why the Mark Gahey links make sense. Things with Gahey to Man City have slowed down massively, and I wonder if it's because Arsenal are willing to actually, I don't know, put their foot on the gas a little bit with this deal and even do it in January if they think that it's doable because of the injuries that we've had. But we will see. I don't think Arsenal are going to jump into the market and be rash, but we'll see what happens. Chelsea are missing players too. So Rosinia has said on Cole Palmer that he'll make the decision on Cole, Reece and Malo Gusto. So Reece James and Malo Gusto on the day, I think. We said tomorrow, which if he said this on Monday, then he's talking yesterday. But I think he might just decide on the day today. He says, I appreciate that doing the press conference 2 days before is not ideal. Okay, so he did it on Monday, so he's talking about Tuesday making a decision. He says, sorry about that, but I've got time to make a decision on their availability. Malo Gusto, Cole Palmer, and potentially Reece James out as well. Not sure about the details of all those injuries. I think Palmer has a long-term groin issue that might be rearing its head again. I'm not sure. And Gusto and James, I'm not sure about either. Romeo Lavia, though, has a hamstring injury. So that's another injury for him, which I think he got in November. He's a top player. And Caicedo suspended for this game too. So why is he suspended for this game? Did he pick up too many yellow cards or something? I don't know why. Let me know in the comments if you do know. But there we go. A lot of injuries. Just to say on Lavia, I know he's got a poor injury record, but if Chelsea are willing to do a deal at 40 million and we speak to him about his injuries and find out that he thinks he can get past them, because players have done that. Van Persie, others have had injury problems and managed to get past it and stay fit on a regular basis. Haaland, for example. If Lavia is potentially gettable because they think, I've seen some Chelsea fans saying that they should sell him because he can't stay fit. I think this is an amazing prospect. I think it's a really top young player, and I think Arsenal should look to go and pick up Romeo Lavia if Chelsea are looking to move him on. But the problem is they don't sell for less. They tend to sell for more. But his stock won't have gone up since his £60 million move. It will have gone down because of the amount of injuries and the lack of game time. But he is a very, very good player. Okay, I think... 5 yellows is the injury for... is the suspension reason for Caicedo. All right. Well, I think we should talk 11s then. Just very quickly, we'll do some tactics and deeper dive stuff in a sec. But this 11 I've got out here is what I want to see based on the information we've got regarding Saliba and Trossard, who could be out. So I want to see Jesus lead the line over Gyökeres. I've talked about that in a short as well. That's out on the channel. I want to see Martinelli start on the left. Oh, do I? Oh, do I? Okay. Let me just for a second here. Let me just throw another idea at you all. Where is this player that I'm thinking of? Here we go. Let me know in the comments. What would you rather see? If Trossard, he's a doubt. If Trossard isn't fit to play, would you want Martinelli or Eze on the left? Actually, now I've said it, and I know Martinelli scored a hat-trick and did brilliantly, but I would love to see that 3, It's a Carabao Cup tie, so you can justify making a change there. And I know it's a semi-final, I've talked about the importance, but still. Actually, yeah, that's what I'd want to see. If Trossard isn't playing, I'd love to see that. The problem is, it will probably be Martinelli who's a better fit for Lewis Skelly because he's more of a touchline winger. Let me know in the comments now. What would you want to see? Martinelli will start, says Nathan. Eugenio says Eze. Daniel says Eze. Martinelli left wing, says Michael. Eze left wing, says Ash. I would start Trossard, says Sean. Yeah, but he's a doubt. If Trossard's fit, I'd start Trossard. I'd have Eze on the left, says Cormac. Okay, so yeah. So I would go Eze personally. I don't think that's what it will be, and we'll talk about what I think it will be and go into that in a bit more detail in a sec. But I would go Eze on the left. Lewis Skelly's going to have to start left back because we have no other choice. And I would go White at centre back if Saliba's injured. I would keep Timber at right back because that's where he's been playing most of this season. I don't see the need to change it and move around. And White centre back. I think he's got brilliant distribution from centre back, and I'd love to just see him on the ball. Just, when he gets that ball there and he plays that ball over the top to Saka into that space. I'd love to see that more from Ben White. But this is what I think we're going to see. And that includes returning Victor Gyökeres and Martinelli. So I think you can take Martinelli, we'll take Eze out and put Martinelli in that position. And I think he's going to start Victor Gyökeres. So this is then the 11 I expect Chelsea to play. Now I think the key players here to talk about, I think Fofana will come in at centre-back with Badiashile. I don't think Reece James and Gusto will be risked because, they've got so many other competitions. But I think he rates Achimpong, so I think there's every chance Achimpong plays. Cucurella, I think, will come in, but I do wonder with Hato, because Hato, apparently I watched Matisse's match reaction, was playing quite high in the half space at left back, so will we see Cucurella do a similar thing or get forward a lot? We will see. And then, with the absence of Lavia, Caicedo, Reece James, I think that will probably be the midfield pair. I think he'll go Santos alongside Fernandes, with Esteval coming in, Neto on the left, and then no Palmer. You could go Buonanotte, but I think he'll go Pedro and Delap and go more 4-4-2 out of possession. So let's talk about the key battles. How do I think they will look? I don't think they'll do anything like super clever in possession. Like I don't think they'll complicate it. I think they'll go with some of the stuff that we saw under what's it, Enzo Maresca. Why was I struggling with that? In fact, yeah, I think he'll do this. Yeah. So I think you'll see Cucurella inverting a little bit. I think you'll see maybe it will look more like this with Santos sitting and Enzo dropping out here. And I think this is a sort of shape you can expect from Chelsea. Arsenal, on the other hand, I think will play with Gyökeres in a battle for Fofana, Saka and Martinelli out wide. Lewis Skelly, I think, is going to invert quite high because I think he's going to sit Rice and Zubimendi in this space. And then Arsenal will look something like this in terms of their shape. Now, we know that Arsenal are very, very flexible in their shape. By the way, I think Kepa will start, and I would start Kepa, just to quickly address that one there. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you so you can all see as we talk tactics in a bit more detail now. So, I think Arsenal's 11 will look something like this. I think this is roughly what we're going to do in terms of, well, this is the 11 I think Arteta will go for, and this is what I think he'll do in terms of the shape roughly. I do think Lewis Skelly, if he's going to invert, is going to get further forward. But it's always worth saying that we're so flexible in possession, because there's every chance you get this, which we've talked about loads of times. Zubimendi dropping in between the centre-backs, with Ødegaard coming next to Rice, and Timber going really high. We saw this a lot against Liverpool. It was actually Timber making those underlapping runs and getting forward. And we saw White and Saliba, well, we saw Saliba, but it'd be White in this game, carrying into this area of the pitch at times. How cool the ball moves. Carrying to this area of the pitch at times, trying to find a bit of an underlapping run to Timber. And I just wonder whether we'll see a little bit of that in this game as well. So Mendy, I think, drops really deep when he's struggling to receive in this little pocket. And the reason he'd be struggling is because one of White or Timber can't get the ball to him. And basically Delap, Pedro, whoever it is, they're just shielding this space. In fact, out of possession, I expect Chelsea to be quite aggressive on the press. I think he's going to want to make a mark, Rossini. I think he's going to want to show the Chelsea fans in Stamford Bridge, that they want to be aggressive. And I think that would mean trying to crowd out passes into the likes of, Rice and Zubimendi by basically having Pedro and Delap shielding and Enzo and Santos stepping forward. But I mean, we'll see. It's going to be difficult to see or to know exactly what Chelsea are going to do, because we haven't really seen any of them under Rosinia, and certainly not with this 11, because he rotated a lot for the FA Cup game. Dreekling with the super chat says, why not Rice and Eze? Oh, Rice, Eze, Ødegaard with Lewis Skelly inverting. We might see that. I mean, there's every chance we see that. You could well be right. I'm not going to write that off at all. Now, other things we might see in build-up, Lewis Skelly pulling wide, so we kind of go with the wider fullbacks to try and create a bit of space, basically in these areas here. Oh, there we go. Have we got that? Yeah, I think we got that. Fullbacks could be a little bit wider, and you're basically inviting Ødegaard or Saka or Martinelli to try and pick up the ball in that area, whether it be from White or Gabriel. I think we do see sometimes the fullbacks stay wide to try and create that space and build up. There's a lot of things we might see, and every time we do these lives, we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about the various shapes we might see. From Chelsea, though, I do wonder whether Cucurella is going to get forward to try and, especially because Neto, I think, will hug the touchline and want to go on the outside. I do wonder whether Cucurella might go forward, and then you get sort of Pedro dropping in the half space. You got Enzo and Santos and build up. And if Cucurella does go into that space, will Saka follow him all the way, or will they just pass on players and go man for man? I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how aggressive Arsenal are in this game against Chelsea. The other thing I just wanted to quickly give an opinion on is this battle here. Saka Cucurella. It's a battle that gets talked about all the time. Thank you for your super chat, by the way. I know the message was retracted, but thank you. I know everyone always talks about this Saka Cucurella battle and it always being like a great battle we see in these games. And I've got a bit of a controversial take. I say, as I really hope I don't jinx anything for the game later. I personally don't think this is like, I don't think the battle between Saka and Cucurella is discussed fairly, if I'm honest. Cucurella's tactic on Saka is to be very aggressive. He engages very, very quickly. And so there's always a sense of, like, he's very rarely backpedaling Cucurella on Saka, because he tries to get in front of him before Saka can settle. Now, look, Cucurella's a good player. He's done well at Chelsea despite struggling in that first season. And, they've had great battles across England and Spain too. But I think this idea that, like, Cucurella gets the better of Saka and he makes him really struggle. He might make him work hard. I'm sure Saka doesn't find it easy against him. But I don't get this idea that, Cucurella locks him up in any way, shape, or form. When I think of the 22-23 season, when we won 1-0, and it was Cucurella's first season at Chelsea, I thought Saka tore him apart in that game at the Bridge. A year later, Saka goes and gets the cross to the back post to Trossard that, results in an equaliser, and I thought played quite well that game. Last season, no, so that was 23-24. 24-25, last season we drew 1-1. I don't know if Saka even played that game. I think he did, but no notes for me. Maybe Cucurella did get the better of him in that game. And then in this game in November, again, Cucurella, kicked him a lot, conceded a lot of fouls, got a yellow card early, so then wasn't able to engage too well. Then Saka goes and drops a shoulder, whips another ball to the back post, whips another ball into the box for Marino. So Saka's gone and got his moment, his GAs on the board again, in a game where Cucurella got booked. And then, ultimately, has come off the pitch in another game at the Bridge with something to show for it. I'm sure Cucurella makes Saka work hard, I've no doubt. But this idea that he locks him up, I just don't subscribe to. I think Saka has great battles with him. Every time they played at the Emirates, I think Saka's been brilliant against him. I remember in the 5-0, I'm pretty sure Cucurella played that game, but whoever was at left back, Saka tore apart. I thought played brilliantly. Even in the England-Spain final at the Euros, doesn't Saka get the assist for Cole Palmer? So Saka tends to walk away from these battles against Cucurella with something to show for it. So I don't know. Yes, it's a good battle. Yes, I get why it's talked about a lot, but because it's an aggressive one, because Cucurella really sticks it on Saka, and it's often a talking point in a game. But this idea that Saka struggles against him, I just don't really see. What I think is more interesting are some of the other key battles. And who could that be? I think Fofana Gyökeres for sure is a key battle. This is a big one too. Luis Skelly Esteval. I think that's a big battle, because if Esteval does get into his rhythm, Luis Skelly might struggle. He's not been defending well for a little while. Now look, Luis Skelly has defended Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo and others, and actually, performed well against the likes of Kvaratskhelia, Doué, Barcola, players like that, Dembele. So I trust Miles, I really do. But he will have his work out for him, I think. I really do. I think this could be an interesting one, because Pedro, I think, will float into other areas of the pitch. And by the way, while I'm talking about Arsenal and what I think Arteta will do, I actually think it'll be Timber centre-back. So the changes that I think Arteta will go with are different from what I'd want to see. I'd want to see White at right back. Sorry, White at centre-back, but I think he'll go White right back. He'll go Timber centre-back rather than Timber's right back, which is what I'd do. And I think he'll start Gyökeres where I'd start Jesus. And I think he'll start Martinelli in the absence of Trossard, where I would start Eze. I think that's pretty much it. There's every chance that he plays Raya, but I think he will go for Kepa, and I'd go Kepa as well. No other real key battles for me. I mean, Erdegaard's imperative. He has a good game, as does Zubimendi, so we can get our foot on the ball and try and control this match. But I think there'll be long periods where we're just doing some defending, and Chelsea again are getting on the ball, trying to play and trying to run with the new instructions from Liam Rosenior, who I think will get a bit of a managerial bounce. I think they will come with some high energy and try and make it difficult for us. Okay, I think some people are saying Cucurella is out, others are saying he is available. I didn't read anywhere that he was unavailable. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the comments, people. Don't think there's anything around this game that I've missed I should have talked about. Norgard has done well at centre-back AMSN. I agree, but I still wouldn't play him in this game. Yes, Cucurella played in the 5-0. Havertz humbled him. There you go. Cucurella served as one match ban in the FA Cup against Charlton. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. This is the way, he says, use your eyes and stop being a Saka fanboy. He's been generally stopped by Cucurella. Cool. Well, then, stop getting goals and assists against Chelsea. Stop him getting that, and then we can say he's really locked him up. I'm not saying he hasn't had good games against him. I'm just saying this idea that he's locked him up. There's just not one that I agree with. Okay, going to leave it there. Big thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this stream. Obviously, there'll be a player ratings later. There'll be a match reaction on Goonerverse news. Plenty of content to come. And if there's anything to talk about, we'll discuss it on the Goonerverse tomorrow in an analytical piece. But yeah, big thanks for joining. Sorry we're a little bit late as well today. My score prediction is 0-0. As Melon asks, I think it'll be a 0-0. I think it'll be a cager game that neither side really do everything to win tonight, if I'm totally honest. But let's see. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we get a good game. Big thanks. Catch you all in a bit.